Welcome to the chapel. My name is Tori Gill, and I'm the Associate Next Steps Director. Here at the chapel, we believe that everyone has a next step to take, and our Next Steps team is here to help you find your next step. If you're new here today or haven't gotten connected yet, that next step is to text Chapel Guest to 94,000 and fill out the form so that we can meet you. If you live in the Baton Rouge area and you've never visited one of our on-site locations, your next step might be to check out an on-site service or get connected in a group. Whatever your next step might be, we are here to help. Sharon is hosting the chat today, and you can let her know you're ready to take your next step. Or email connect@thechapelbr.com. If you're joining us on YouTube, hit subscribe, and on Facebook, share the service and invite a friend to join you. Now, let's worship together.
We're creation suddenly articulate, and with 1,000 tongues to lift one cry. Then from north to south and east to west, we'd hear Christ be magnified. Were the whole earth echoing his eminence, his name would burst from sea and sky, and from rivers to the mountain tops, we'd hear Christ be magnified. We're singing, oh, Christ be magnified. Just let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. When every creature finds its inmost melody, and every human heart its native cry, and then in one enraptured hymn of praise, we'll sing Christ be magnified. Be magnified in us, Lord, singing, oh, Christ be magnified. Just let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. And I won't bow to idols, I'll stand strong and worship you. 'Cause if it puts me in the fire, I'll rejoice 'cause you're there too. I won't be fooled by feelings, I'll hold fast to what is true. 'Cause if the cross brings transformation, then I'll be crucified with you. 'Cause death is just the doorway into resurrection life. And if I join you in your sufferings, then I'll join you when you rise. And when you return in glory, with all the angels and the saints. My heart will still be singing, my song will be the same. Oh, Christ be magnified, let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified, just let his praise arise. Christ be magnified in me. Oh, Christ be magnified from the altar of my life. Christ be magnified in me. Yes.
Hey everybody, and once again, welcome to the Chapel Online. Thank you so much for worshiping with us today. Now, today is a special day in the life of the Chapel because we're going to be diving into the Chapel's 10-year vision. This is a vision we launched really about a year ago, but today we're going to update you where we are, but also to continue to press in what God has for us here at the Chapel. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this message from Pastor Kevin.
For the past 50 years, the chapel has done amazing things on the campus, in the city, and around the world. During that time, two significant things have always stood out: taking the gospel where it's not, and discipling the believer. As we look forward to the next 10 years, we believe God is calling the chapel to maximize our growth capacity so that we can maximize our sending capacity. We invite you to join us as we journey together into God's vision for the chapel. Grow to go.
Welcome to the Chapel Online, and I haven't had a chance, let me say, Happy New Year. The Chapel exists to help people meet, know, and follow Jesus. And today I want to talk to you about the idea, the concept of following. Following Jesus is what the elders have been pursuing as we have established a 10-year vision and the 3-year Grow to Go initiative. Today, I want to update you on what has happened as we've followed Jesus together as a church into this vision. Bottom line, man, we have experienced His glory and His grace in many powerful ways, and we just want to celebrate that, especially for those of you who are only online. But first, let me state the obvious, and that is following isn't easy. When we follow another, we give up control of many things. One thing we give up control of is, and actually sometimes it's the hardest, it's the destination, right? However, when we follow Jesus, He's going to determine our destination. And even if we're excited about the destination, following also means that we have to give up direction. And sometimes we have to give up giving directions. Some of us are really good at that, right? Think about traveling along, as we did on a family vacation, going together. There may be more than one way to get somewhere, but if I say to you, I'm going to follow you, then I've given up control of the directions that you choose to go to get there, right? Likewise, we also give up duration. And by this, I mean the pace at which we move toward that destination. You know, as I said, over Christmas, we traveled together. And if you've ever done any road trips with family or friends, there are those people that are, I don't know how to explain it, but inside of them, they say, we're not stopping for anything. They just drive until every bladder is full and every gas tank is empty. And then, of course, there's the other side, which I kind of favor. They stop at every Buc-ee's. They stop at every stop. They stop whenever they want. Of course, it takes them forever to get what they're going. And when you put those two together, tempers flare if they're in the same car. However, as we follow Jesus, guess what? He determines when we stop, go, slow down, speed up. He determines all of that. So following Jesus means he determines the destination, the direction, and the duration. You see, Jesus, he invites us, like he did his first disciples, to follow him. Jesus has extended that two-word invitation to so many, follow me. And by saying follow me, he meant much more than liking him on social media and occasionally viewing his post, right? By the invitation, he meant following him in his leading in every area of your life. Now, to be clear, following Jesus has many challenges. There are a few times that Jesus invited others to follow him in Luke's gospel, which we'll be studying as a church from now until Easter. For Matthew, who also is called Levi, the tax collector, the challenge was to leave his job. It says in Luke 5:27, after this, Jesus went and saw a tax collector by the name of Matthew sitting in his tax booth. Follow me, Jesus said. And we know that Matthew left that vocation and followed Jesus. Another time, Jesus goes on to explain that following is an essential part of being a disciple. It's not an optional part of being a disciple. It's actually part of Jesus's definition. Luke 9:23. It says this, and he said to them all, whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves, take up their cross daily, and follow me. Now, these statements of Jesus all kind of point to a level of dedication that we must have if we're going to faithfully and fully follow Jesus. That's why the rich young ruler who came to Jesus decided not to follow him. See, he didn't want to put Jesus first. Like many today, that person called the rich young ruler, he trusted in his wealth for his real sense of security and salvation. And so Jesus pointed that out when he called him to follow him. Here's how he said it to him. Jesus said to him, you still lack one thing. Sell everything you have and give to the poor. Then you'll have treasure in heaven. Then follow me. Jesus knew that this young man, this young wealthy man, wanted to follow him, but Jesus also knew that that young man wanted to determine what that meant. Jesus wouldn't let him do that, and he doesn't let us do that. See, when we follow Jesus, we don't determine the destination, where we're headed. We don't determine the direction, how we're going to get there, what course we're going to follow, and nor do we determine how long it might take. But what we must have is a dedication to following him, dedicated to going where he leads, how he leads, when he leads. You know, we do this because we believe where he is, there is life. You could say ultimately, he is the final destination. So following Jesus means he determines, right, destination, direction, duration, but we determine our level of dedication. Once when Jesus was describing the level of dedication needed to follow him, many people just thought his teaching was too demanding and that it asked too much. The result was that many people who were superficially following Jesus, they turned back and no longer followed him. As people left, Jesus looked at those that were dedicated to him, his disciples, the 12 actually, and he says this. It's recorded in John's gospel. Do you want to leave too? Is that what you want to do, right? And Simon Peter said, Lord, to whom shall we go? You have the words of eternal life. What about you? During the past 18 months, I have watched so many people walk away from church. Not just the chapel, but church in general, It's like the great resignation that's talked about when people are leaving the workforce. I read this last week that records show that 4.5 million people walked away from their jobs in the month of November alone. Now, how many people have kind of walked away from church during these crazy and confusing times? I don't know. I don't know the number, but I do know this. It's too many. It's too many. Now, I want to be clear, not attending church during a pandemic with a contagious, disease isn't the same thing as walking away from Jesus. Still, there's an impact on our spiritual life and likely the dedication to fully follow Jesus when we just kind of quit getting together. Let me give you 2 examples that come to my mind. The first has to do with isolation. Our faith is easily attacked when we're isolated, and we become easily distracted from following Jesus. We become consumed with ourselves, our ambitions, maybe even beat down by shameful regrets when we're in isolation. Additionally, when we spend too much time in the echo chambers of social media, and let's be honest, all media is social media, and our self-selected news feeds become echo chambers. When we spend too much time there, let me assure you, if you haven't discovered it, we become discouraged, often discouraged from following Jesus. Time online, on our devices, in front of this barrage of negative information causes us to become divisive, comparative, combative, tribal, rather than what the gospel of grace calls us to be, loving, supported, and united. So, when Jesus calls us to follow him, we have to trust in his character and not try to control the course of the journey. And when we follow Jesus, we're really following God. And when we follow God, there's going to be clarity. He's pretty clear. I need you to go this way. But what there isn't is certainty. We don't know what's going to unfold. But here's what I want you to know. As we follow him, we're going to uniquely experience God's glory and grace. Think about the tremendous power and glory that God revealed when the people who followed him and his leader Moses into the wilderness, as God released the people of Israel from captivity. God sent them out away from Pharaoh's army. God parted the Red Sea, and those who followed crossed through the Red Sea on foot, on dry land. They witnessed God destroy their enemy. The glory of that moment defined a nation of people. When God called Gideon to follow him into battle against the Midianites, God declared, "Your army's too large. You'll have to make it smaller, because only then will it be obvious that I've given the Midianites to you. Only then will you not brag about what you've done, but enjoy and celebrate what I've done." So Gideon downsized his initial troop force from 25,000. Well, actually, from 25,000 to 3,000. And then God said, "That's still too big," and they shrank it down to 300. And God asked that small force to follow his leader and himself into battle. And God delivered the Midianites to Gideon. And wow, and those 300 people, and Israel saw the glory and grace in that moment. Jesus, at one time, he directed his disciples to go ahead of him across the Sea of Galilee. They followed his directive. They crossed the river. However, as they were on the water, a massive storm came up, almost capsizing their boat. Jesus, bizarrely and unusually, came walking to them on the water. Confused, it was Peter who said from the safety of the boat to the person walking on the water, "Jesus, if it is you, tell me to come to you." And Jesus called to him, and Peter followed. Stepping out of the boat, he actually walked on water. Now, it was just for a moment. He was focused on Jesus. When his focus shifted, he became distracted by all that was going on around him, began to sink, and Jesus, of course, pulled him out. And put him back in the boat. But talk about experience, something no one else in the boat experienced. I've never experienced that power, that glory, and that grace. Over the past 18 months, the elders, the staff, our students, our group leaders have seen God do amazing things in people who have faithfully followed Jesus. During this time, there have been many things, events that could be a great distraction, like a storm, like a pandemic, like a very divisive election in 2020, like flooding in our community, like the devastation that only a hurricane can bring. But you know what? We've witnessed over and over again, God has always been ahead of us, each step along the way, simply asking us to follow him. And as we do, we have experienced his grace and his glory. And I want to share with you some of the glory and grace that we've observed as the chapel has followed Jesus into an uncertain and confusing times, the times that we live in now. First, believing that God was leading us, we launched a 3-year campaign during a pandemic because we believed God was leading us to prepare for growth. We were pressing on, believing God has led us into this season. And as we followed him, one truth just kind of keeps coming up in our minds. If God calls you to it, God will get you through it. If God is the one calling you to it, then God is the one who will get you through it. And so doing all of this in a pandemic will assure that any success that we have from our efforts will bring glory to God, because only he can bring about what he has called us to do. So we follow him, listening, looking, and seeking his leading each step along the way. In January of 2019, the elders went away on a retreat, seeking the Lord's leading with a desire to follow him. From that retreat, God opened up a 10-year vision. Go 2030. Here's how we've talked about it in various publications. God has shown us a world yet to be saturated with the gospel and a city and campus yet to be fully sent to reach it. He has commissioned us into this world. Therefore, in the next 10 years, we'll do whatever it takes to help people meet, know, and follow Jesus on the campus, in the city, and around the world. From that moment, we started following him, believing that he had called us to this vision. That vision is that we will maximize our growth potential to maximize our sending potential. So by the year 2030, we aim to equip and send 300 people into full-time ministry, 100 of those to the unreached people groups of the world. To support this vision, the chapel needs to grow to be a church of approximately 3,000 people in attendance. 30, 300, 3,000. Hey, of those 300, 24 families have already gone in this first year. That's 33 adults. Of the 100, 8 families have gone to the unengaged, unreached people. That includes 14 adults. That's a lot of folks. And so as we launched into this, we said, well, okay, our first 3 years, we're going to call that Grow to Go, with the belief that God wants us to prepare for growth. And so that's where we are right now. It represents this, the initial steps. And this update is the first 11 months of that. We prayed for the Lord's leading, and we're impressed with the fact that he wanted us to prepare for growth. And like people of the Bible, we are building by faith. We've worked on 3 areas with a focus and determination over the past year. Actually, it's just been 11 months. To upgrade our facilities, to fuel missions, and to create a sending pipeline. Now, I want to tell you a little bit of what we've done in each area. Now, when it comes to upgrading our facilities, you need to know that the overall project of all of that was initially $2.6 million that we asked you to give toward through gifts and pledges. When we asked, the church responded and committed to over $3 million. This has been a great encouragement to us. In addition to that, the money that was pledged didn't change the scope of the project. That additional monies didn't mean we're going to do more. what it allowed us to immediately address were the increased costs that were brought on in all areas of construction because of the pandemic. We further estimated that costs could run 10 to 12, 13% above our best estimates. But God had prepared us for this because of your faithfulness in giving. Over the past 10 years, we have followed God's lead to establish reserves that could cover such a possible overage if it was necessary. This cash position and your commitment to this vision has allowed us to move into construction with a great deal of confidence. Many of you not only made pledges, but have kept them and kept giving, so much so that we have raised 40% of what has been pledged in just the first 11 months. It's also meant that we haven't had to borrow any money in 2021. We'll have to have a short cash loan to kind of help with expenses in 2022. But because of God's faithfulness, because of your commitment, it means that such a loan is smaller. Now, we're really excited about what's going on. And I want to invite all of those here, all of us, to join. Some of you haven't had the opportunity to join us. Would you please consider giving over and above your regular gifts to the church over the next 24 months? What could you contribute to Grow to Go? Maybe it's $1,500 over 2 years. That's $63 a month approximately and $15 a week. Now, some of you could do twice that. Some of you could do 10 times that. The amount is not nearly as important as the involvement of everyone, right? If you've not made a pledge or given a gift, we invite you to join us on the journey today. Our prayer is that everyone will participate at some level over and above what they regularly give to the church. So it'll take all of us. For example, we totally underestimated the cost that it would take to do church, if you will, at the gym at our Segan location. Significantly cooling and heating the gym on the weekends, just the weekends, has cost us about $130,000 just to heat and cool. And we didn't anticipate it being that much, nor did we anticipate being in the space as long as we are. I'll get to the timeline in just a second, right? So I invite you to go to our website and you can read about the project, the scope of the project. You can see each month the updates. You can give online right there. We really encourage everybody to join us. Now, about the timeline. It was estimated, right, that we might be in our sanctuary at our Segan facility before Christmas. That didn't happen. Now our goal is before the end of February, right? And the enclosure at the campus before Easter. Even so, there are still shortages and supply chain problems, right? But we're trusting that God knows just how long this needs to take. And we are going to simply follow Him and continue to follow Him. The leadership pipeline and the efforts to send people has been incredible, mainly, really solely because God has gone before us, preparing the hearts of people that want to go to the hardest to reach places of the world. We're committing $200,000 to this effort, some of which is used to hire additional staff to help develop this, which we've done. And as we've done this, we've also begun designing the leadership pipeline for our church and the sending pipeline for missions. This segment of the pipeline, if you will, is specifically designed and developed to equip, to prepare those going to reach to the hardest reach places of the world. And this section of the pipeline is being pressure tested. That's what Steve Elworth, our sending director, likes to say. Because after our Live Sent conference, our mission conference a few months back, 12 families and people said, we want to investigate that. So they're in the process of that. In the past 11 months, 15 families or people have filled out pipeline interest forms. They're like, I'm really interested. We currently have one person being trained in the pipeline, and 6 families, which is 11 adults, have finished. They're just waiting. They're waiting to go overseas. This interest of God going before us, preparing hearts for people, it's so encouraging as we step out in faith. I want to encourage you to consider the 15-week course on perspectives, which begins in a week. We're offering it again to the city of Baton Rouge. And we have more people pre-registered for this class than we've ever had before. Over 35 people have said, we're going to step into it. The first week is absolutely free. And we want you to consider going to that first week and then praying about, should I be involved over the next 15 weeks? It is a course that's going to expose you to God's heart for the world. The third area that we are focused on in Grow to Go is fueling missions. Throughout Grow to Go, we will supply our missions efforts with an additional, above everything else we're already contributing, an additional $300,000. However, this is on hold right now. We're not spending any of that money because so many countries are still closed. We're waiting for them to open up. But we do know that the scope of this entire project is going to take strategic partnerships, ministry schools, seminaries, sending agencies, other churches. And we have been working in the background to acquire accreditation with the Evangelical Council of Financial Accountability, ECFA. And we have that accreditation now because we want everyone that is contributing to the efforts of our 10-year vision and our 3-year Grow to Go initiative to trust that we are handling our money with the highest integrity and accountability. Here's a short video from them.
Our church is proud to have earned ECFA certification. ECFA certifies leading churches and ministries across America that are committed to excellence in financial management, board governance, and stewarding charitable gifts. That means, as you give generously to support God's work through our church, you can trust that your gifts are being stewarded with the highest levels of integrity and accountability. To learn more about ECFA and our church's commitment to financial integrity, contact the church office or visit ecfa.church/standards.
While all of this has been going on, as we followed Jesus in pursuing this 10-year vision, this 3-year initiative, these first 3 years, there's also been a lot of other things going on, and I'd just like to take a minute and share that with you. They're about our locations specific, but it's a way to say how God has provided and prepared. We've had some significant maintenance issues over the past year. And because God had prepared us to follow His lead in securing reserves, and because of your financial support, we were quickly able to repair the air conditioning, over 40 years old at LSU, and to update our staging area there. Our Siegen location had significant flood damage, and we were able to address it and remove some of the T buildings behind our facility that were decaying. All of this will cost $225,000. And because of the way God had prepared us, had gone before us, and because of your faithfulness, we're going to be able to meet those costs with our maintenance reserve, and some of which will be paid out over the next 12 months. We're really, really grateful for how God has gone before us. And finally, and really most importantly, above all of these things, all of these big things, our care ministry at our church has been faithfully meeting the needs of our family, of our church family, in ways that are deeply significant. And we're so grateful for that ministry. Many of you have given your time and your service to the local elementary school we have adopted, Wildwood Elementary. We were able to throw a party both for their faculty and for their students. The first one at our facility, the second one in every classroom of their school, just because you said, we want to help. We were able to help financially and with teams to help people begin to recover from Hurricane Ida. And something that I'm extremely proud of is our church's help with the Baton Rouge Food Bank. After we finished last year with our out-of-the-box food drive, the food bank told us there's not another church giving like you do, which is really about God's faithfulness to lead us there and direct us to that, and your faithfulness in giving. So as we move into our second year of Grow to Go, as we move into 2020, I want to remind you of some of the most important place to receive personal, life-on-life encouragement to continue to follow Jesus. Well, we will be encouraged to follow Jesus by others who are following Jesus. Let me say that again. We're going to be encouraged to follow Jesus as we're around and with other people who are following Jesus. Now, I know that this may be the only contact that you have with our church, but some of the folks that watch our videos are close enough to join us, and we'd love to see you. Worship services are essential and primary source of encouragement to keep going. We must be encouraged one another as we gather for worship and we see each other. Man, we can do that. So let me encourage you, if you've stopped going to a worship service, go back. If you're just going once a month, go twice. If you're going twice a month, go 3 times a month. Make it a priority. And also groups, to have intimate friendships where you're walking through life together. You're carrying one another's burdens. You're hearing one another's confessions. You're celebrating one another's successes. Wow. That's going to be a great source of encouragement to keep following Jesus. And next week, we're going to have our groups launch. They're going to launch next week. So if you're nearby, please come to one of our locations. Join us if you're able. And I would love for you to join a group. We've also found, and this is true, just in life, when you serve with other people, you're going to be encouraged. When you lock arms, particularly for the cause of Christ, man, that's going to be deeply encouraging. It's going to help you sustain your focus and follow after Jesus. Now, it's no big surprise that this is precisely what the Bible teaches us. Let me share a verse out of Hebrews chapter 10. For the year 2020, I think it's very significant. It says this: let us hold unswervingly to the hope we profess. For he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another toward love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. To hold unswervingly is to hold on tight. It's to position yourself for possession of what? Right? Of the hope that we have in Jesus. That's what we're holding on to. He is our destination. He is our salvation. He is our hope. And He is faithful. And because He is, we can follow Him. Where He leads us, the way that He leads us, the pace that He leads us. As we follow Him, here's something amazing. It will be for our good and His glory. He can do both at the same time. All we need to do is follow Him. We also need to be challenged, don't we? We need to be called up. And when we're together, we can do that. That's what the verse means when it says spur one another on, like a cowboy on a horse, right? We need to challenge each other with the truth that God is good, that we need to share His love and good deeds with others. When we challenge people at the church to give to the Baton Rouge Food Bank, they did. You may have. When we asked people to help us throw a party at the elementary school, they did. Right? When we asked people to join us in assisting in hurricane relief, they did. Now, you may have heard it here on video. You may have read it in an email. But the folks that really responded were the ones in community groups that were challenged by others. There were ones in our worship services that heard the stories and responded. See, we need to be together. We can't quit doing that. We can't quit meeting together. Golly, if we do, we'll shrivel up and die. And finally, we need a constant source of encouragement from God's Word. That's why we ask everybody at our church to join the Chapel Bible Reading Plan. If you don't have one, just go to our website and follow along with us. Imagine what God can do when hundreds of people are following Him, are reading the same passages during the week, are gathering and encouraging one another, sensitive to the needs of each other and that of their community. Imagine how that can impact a community and what we might do in 2020 together. Now, I don't want you to miss something really important. Everything that we've celebrated today happened during very uncertain and turbulent times as we faithfully follow Jesus. If you haven't joined us, join us today. We would really like for you to join us as we follow Him, right? We're not distracted by the noise and confusion of the day. We're just going to follow Jesus. And as we do, we're going to experience His glory. We're going to go, wow, look what God did. And His grace. We're going to say, wow, He might have even used us, because He has the power to multiply our gifts that we bring to Him, multiply our talents, all for His glory. Finally, we're not just celebrating this week what's happened in the past 11 months. We've begun preparing to celebrate what God has done over the past 50 years in the life of the chapel. The chapel turns 50 in 2022. And we want to invite you to participate. The last weekend of April, April 29 and 30, we'll have celebration, particularly on the 30th, this great celebration where we'll be together, we'll sing, we'll worship, we'll hear from God's Word, we'll hear stories about all that He's done, and we'll look deeply into the future. And we will, there as we are today, decidedly, committedly, with great dedication, say, I've decided to follow Jesus. Thank you so much for being with us, for celebrating with us today. It is our prayer that you would have been encouraged by the goodness and grace of God in the life of our church. Thank you so much for being with us. God bless.
Thanks again for worshiping with us here. And also thank you, Pastor Kevin, for walking us through what it means to follow, but also to be a part of a church that is pursuing God's mission. If you want to join us for Go to Go, you can go to our website, thechapelbr.com/go2030, and that's spelled the Louisiana way, G-E-A-U-X. You'll be able to see a financial partnership place there, how you can pray, but also how you can get involved helping people meet, know, and follow Jesus. And if you came prepared to give or watching today online, you can give at thechapelbr.com/give. And you can designate it either to budget or somewhere else that you would like to give towards. Again, we love you guys. Thanks for joining us today.